Of the 8 lines that make up Chicago's rapid transit system, the Red Line is its workhorse. It carries nearly 30% of the system's ridership, and it travels almost the entire length of the city, from its northern border to the far south side. But the northern segment of the line is crumbling, and long overdue for replacement. So the Chicago Transit Authority has embarked on a massive $2.1 billion capital project, known as the Red-Purple Modernization Project, or RPM. Phase 1 of RPM is already well underway, rebuilding track structure, stations, and other infrastructure that will make trains more frequent and reliable. All in all, it's a huge investment in the long-term future of Chicago's transit system. So let's take a deeper dive into Chicago's Red-Purple Modernization Project. First, let's look at the problems the project aims to address. On Chicago's north side, the Red Line runs on track known as the North Side Main Line. It's an elevated 4-track wide right-of-way that's shared by the red, purple, and brown lines. The Red Line emerges from underground near Armitage and runs on the structure to Howard Street at the city's northern border. It runs on the 2 inner tracks, while the brown and purple lines share the 2 outer tracks. At Belmont, the brown line breaks off from the main line, continuing northwest to Kimball, while the purple line continues north past Howard, serving the northern suburb of Evanston. Carrying trains from these 3 lines, the Northside Main Line is one of the most heavily trafficked portions of CTA's network. It's also one of the oldest. Built by the Northwestern Elevated Railroad Company in the early 1900s, this track structure, which is a combination of elevated steel structure, bridges, and embankment, is well over 100 years old, and it's reached the end of its useful life. This track requires frequent maintenance and repair, slows trains, and kills reliability, turning the critical corridor into a bottleneck. Many of the stations along the Northside Main Line are also desperately in need of a refresh. They're small and cramped, built at a scale no longer suitable for the modern era, with narrow, dangerous platforms and no ADA accommodations. So the Red-Purple Modernization Project aims to address these challenges. It's a multi-phase project that will eventually rebuild the bulk of the Northside Main Line. But the first phase is focused on 2 distinct projects: the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr Modernization Project and the Red-Purple Bypass Project. As the name suggests, the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr Modernization Project will rebuild track from the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr stations on the line. All in all, this is a 1.5-mile segment of structure and track that is being completely demolished and rebuilt. The work began in 2019 in phases. First, the 2 easternmost tracks were demolished and rebuilt, while rail operations continued on the western 2 tracks. Then, once complete, rail service moved to the new eastern tracks, while the 2 western tracks were demolished and rebuilt. It's an impressively complex method of construction, which has allowed the system to operate while construction is ongoing, and it even involved the construction of 2 temporary stations. The new track runs on a fully elevated concrete structure, and it will provide a smoother, straighter, and faster ride, helping increase the throughput of red and purple line trains. Additionally, the concrete structure will dampen sound, making it much quieter than the older structure. The Lawrence to Bryn Mawr Modernization Project also includes 4 station rebuilds: Lawrence, Argyle, Berwyn, and Bryn Mawr. These new stations will be larger, with wider platforms, better lighting and signage, and elevators, making them ADA compliant. They will also include streetscape and other station access improvements. CTA will also be building improvements underneath the new track structure, with plans for a walking path and potential dog park underneath the new 10-block stretch of track. While the new track will help Red Line trains move more quickly and frequently, The largest constraint on the Red Line's capacity occurs just north of Belmont. Here, Kimball-bound Brown Line trains had to cross over the 3 tracks that carry Red and Purple Line trains as the Brown Line continues west. This would halt traffic on a regular basis, and it was a major choke point that impacted the entire line. The Red-Purple Bypass project fixes this. It's an overpass structure that elevates Kimball-bound Brown Line trains up and over the busy Red and Purple Line tracks below. The project also includes rebuilding and straightening 0.3 miles of track north of Belmont. This seemingly minor improvement will have major positive ripple effects on the system. By eliminating this choke point, the CTA says it will be able to run 30% more Red Line trains, which is a capacity increase of up to 7,200 passengers per hour. Construction of the Red-Purple bypass was extraordinarily complex. The long climb required to clear the tracks underneath requires a substantial structure, and construction involved surgical precision while building around active train lines in the middle of a dense neighborhood. Multiple buildings were demolished to make way for the structure, and one historically significant building, the Vaux-Travers building, was moved about 30 feet to make way for the new straightened track structure. The Red-Purple bypass opened in 2021 and is currently operational, while the remaining track work around Belmont is set to be complete in 2025. These 2 projects represent a substantial improvement to the Red and Purple Line corridors, but they're only Phase 1 of RPM. Preliminary planning has already begun for the next phase, which will focus on rebuilding track and stations from Addison to Sheridan and Thorndale to Howard, as well as the entire stretch of the Purple Line north of Howard. It's an ambitious, expensive, and decades-long process, and it's a painful one to experience as a rider. But in the end, it will pay dividends and ensure Chicago is served with essential, reliable, and high-quality transit into the next century.